So I really had kind of an epiphany last night about the difference between what some people think is going to be the Robotaxi rollout over the next year and what Elon Musk says is going to be the Robotaxi rollout over the next year. So if you may remember that Elon said 500,000 to a million vehicles in the fleet. Well, the fleet plus Airbnb, we're assuming. We don't know for sure when Airbnb type vehicles are going to be allowed, when they're going to let you and me, provide our cars out there to be used as robotaxis. But he was talking about probably a combination if he was going to get to a million, maybe 500,000 if he's just talking about the Tesla fleet. Now, when I produced this very first estimate here, this is based on Cathie Wood and half a dozen other people, all coming out at about the same place. And that is that we think that the cost per mile, well, in Elon Musk, he says it might get down to under 20 cents at some point. But right now, if you take into consideration, it'll be early days. I'm just going to go at 40 cents a mile in terms of the cost. I'm going to assume if we're talking about 100,000 or 200,000 vehicles, and so it's kind of a slow rollout where you're trying to maximize profit, I'm going to go for $2 a mile. That's a little bit higher than some, lower than some, but it's kind of in the average. This gives us a profit of $1.60 a mile. Almost everybody that I've seen is saying that you should be able to get 250 revenue miles per day. Okay. And that's from, 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning until 2 o'clock the next morning. And then you take it over to a charger and you charge it up. So 250 miles a day, I think that seems reasonable. Now that's assuming you are maximizing in every territory that you're putting these cars out there and they need them. There's enough people to want to hail your vehicles, that you're really getting a tremendous result every single day. Now that is part of what I'm doing this video about, is because in the first year or so, do we know that's going to be the case? You also don't want to have too few vehicles out there because then you get bad service. We're already seeing this in Austin with the on again, off again. Well, it's okay maybe to give bad service to, Tesla fanboys that are down there trying to get rides, but it's going to be a whole nother thing when you're trying to roll it out and people are going to be talking about it. Oh, well, I like those robotaxis. Oh, I like those cyber cabs, but it's 20 minutes to get one. It's no good. It's not going to work. All right. So, but let's go ahead. We'll go for this kind of really the best possible case. I think this is an optimistic case. $250, 250 miles per day would be $400 a day in profit. If you have 1,500 vehicles in the fleet, which is what Elon is talking about at the end of the year, let's say it's the end of the year, let's say it's January, but if you have 1,500 vehicles in the fleet, that's $600,000 of profit per day. That's a pretty good amount of profit. And that would be $54 million a quarter. So, even at 1,500 cars, you're talking about serious bucks. Now, what about if you get 15,000 cars? What about if you get 150,000? And I'm sorry, I don't have the per year here. All right, we should have that down there. So, if you got 150,000 in the fleet, it's 21.6 billion. So for those who are thinking it might only be 100,000 by the end of next year, 21.6 billion would be just about double the total Tesla profits these days. That'd be okay. You take the existing 11, 12 billion of profits, you add another 21, you're up to 33. You're starting to talk about a pretty good sized company. Now, what if you bought a million robotaxis averaging 250 revenue miles a day and averaging $2 a mile and averaging 40 cents of cost per mile? Now, all of a sudden, you're talking about $142 billion of profit. And that puts you into, an entirely, that's what everybody's talking about, that Tesla becomes the largest company in the world in pretty short order. So, as you can see, you get to 2 million vehicles, just 2 million vehicles. If you could do what we're talking about here, all of a sudden you're talking about 285 billion in profit. So when people talk about Tesla getting to, $2,700 a share, or, $5,000 a share, or $7,000 a share. You're talking about 285 billion is almost, I think it's double Aramco, which is the largest profit ever in history. I think their largest one might have been over 200 billion, but now I think they're back down in the $150 billion range. Okay, so then I thought, okay, let's take a completely different look. This is assuming I would call it a gentle rollout, or maybe we're to 150,000 by the end of next year. Man, it's a good number, 21.6 million. But I'm thinking that maybe Elon, when he said 500,000 to a million, what he's talking about is not a gentle rollout. He's talking about a big splash. He's talking about taking over the markets, just completely blowing everything else away. Doesn't mean that there won't be, doesn't mean Waymo won't still get business. Doesn't mean that Uber won't still get business. But this would be like just a slam. Okay. Now, can he do that? Well, I think he's probably taking into consideration on both sides that'll make maybe 200,000 cybercabs in the first 8, 9 months of production. So by the end of the year, he'd have 200,000 cybercabs. It would be super easy to have 300,000 or more of the Model 3s and Model Ys out there to make 500,000 in the fleet. And then he could have 500,000, potentially maybe more than that, in terms of the Airbnb types. Or again, if he chose to, he could have a million in the fleet, because he can definitely put out as many Model 3s and Model Ys as he chooses to and pull those out of regular sales. All right, so, but I'm thinking that if you want to roll it out that fast, instead of shooting for $2 average, and instead of shooting for 250 miles a day, what you're going to do is you're going to flood the zone. So you're going to make sure that you're giving unbelievable service everywhere that you go. So as soon as you go into Chicago, you put 500,000 cars. As soon as you go into Poughkeepsie, you put 500 cars or 250 cars, whatever it is. You'll be able to know what you think is going to happen in these towns as you roll it out. But you're going to flood the zone. You're also maybe thinking that Europe happens too. You don't care that much about China, but you do care about Europe. You do care about Canada. You're hoping for all the richer countries that you're going to roll it out. So let's take a look at what happens if maybe we look at it from the standpoint of a little bit of a blowout, just an absolute going for it. So now our cost still 40 cents a mile, although it'll come down if you're talking about a million, but we're going to stay with 40 cents for now. Revenues, I'm going to say $1.40. Now, where do I get my $1.40? Well, it's $1 per mile that you're charging over a longer drive. It's $1 a mile, but maybe you charge $2 when the person gets in the car, And so on shorter drives, it ends up averaging $1.40. Maybe you are still varying it a little bit from territory to territory, area to area. Airport runs might be more expensive. New York City might be more expensive, etc. So I'm going to say an average of $1.40 a mile. That makes it easy too, because now we're talking $1 a mile in profit. And I'm going to drop it all the way down to 100 miles a day. Because again, we're flooding the zone. We're going to make sure we have amazing customer service. And so in the early days, we're only going to be looking at 100 miles a day of revenue generating miles. Well, that means the profit comes all the way down to $100 a day. Vehicles in the fleet, we could look at 1,500 cars again. That'd be 150,000 per day. That'd be 5.4 million per year. That's not a very big business, but be a nice place to start. That we can get. Now that's profit, by the way. That is not revenues. That is profit. Now let's talk about the 100,000 that we talked about a minute ago. Well, it's going to be 3.6 billion. It's not nearly as exciting as what was it up here for 100,000? Oh, we didn't do it. We didn't actually do it. We did 150. So it would be about 15 billion. So instead of 15 billion, we're looking at 3.6 billion. Get to 500,000, all of a sudden you're at 18 billion. So at 500,000, you are getting close to what we were talking about in terms of tripling current profits. In other words, twice as much added to once as much, tripling. Now, if you get to a million of those cars and they're all in the fleet, now look at what happens. With a million cars, even at 100 miles a day, even at only $1 profit per mile, you're talking about $142 billion in profits. And if you get to 2 million, I'm sorry, did I do that wrong? I think I might have done that wrong. Let me make sure. I'm sorry. Come back down here. I'm sorry. So sorry. 3.6 billion at 500,000. is what we're, might be getting confused here. No, this is the one. All right. Yeah. 18 billion and then 140, I'm sorry, 142 billion is right. And 285 billion for 2 million vehicles. So you're still talking about, a dramatic increase, even if it's only a buck 40 a mile. Now you can take it down to $1.20 or a dollar. Maybe you take down the per mile cost to 30 cents or 25. You're going to come up with numbers that are not that far different from what we're looking at here. And maybe it's somewhere in between those two. Now, let's say 500,000 of them are going to be the Airbnb types. Well, at 50 cents a mile, I'm going to raise the cost to you and me. It's not going to be 40 cents a mile. It's going to make it 50 cents a mile because we're not going to get to buy all the energy, et cetera, as cheaply as Tesla. So I'm going to say 50 cents a mile. That's probably high, but let's be conservative. Let's say the revenue, though, is a buck 50 a mile because it's you're going to be even more clever. You're going to only put it out on Friday nights or whatever else. So we're just going to raise it a little bit. Oh yeah, and that makes it easy, a buck a mile. And let's say that you're only able to get 100 miles a day. So the profit's going to be $100 a day, and then Tesla's going to take 20 bucks of that. All right, so you're going to be looking at $80 a day if you do it every single day of the month. That's $2,400 a month. I think that's all right. That's $30,000 a year. Most of us would be okay with that. All right, now vehicles in the fleet, we're talking about 100,000 vehicles. We would be at 720 million in profit for those. If we get to 500,000, we're talking about 3.6 billion of those. Obviously, you get to a million, you're doubling that to 7.2 billion. You add that to the 500,000 up here, now you got 18 point, so you got $21.6 billion in profit per year on just the Robotaxi at 500,000 and 500,000. So that might be what Elon is thinking of doing. So again, to recap, what I'm thinking is in order to get to a million, you have to flood the zone. If you're going to flood the zone, you've got to offer it at a cheaper price, and you've got to make sure you're giving amazing, amazing customer service. So you're going to have these things positioned all over town, and maybe they're not going to get as many miles per day. Now, what do I think is really going to happen? I think it's probably going to be somewhere in between all of this. I don't know if Elon is going to want to flood the zone, at least not initially. So maybe in the first 2 or 3 months, the price will be closer to $2. We know that Waymo is charging like over $3. We know that in Southern California right now, I'm paying Uber when I take it, which is rare now because it's $3 a mile. So, could Tesla be $3 or $4 a mile when it first starts out? Will it try to gauge the market and figure out where it can maximize profits per mile? Of course, that would be the smart thing to do in terms of the immediate profit, but would it be the smart thing to do in terms of the ultimate profit? Or would it be smarter to go in, flood the zones, and just overwhelm the rest of the ride-hail services to the point where you are making all kinds of bucks? Now, none of this takes into consideration things like package delivery, Uber Eats, and some of the other things that we've talked about. I am thinking that as much as that sounds great on paper, and everybody's thinking, boy, that they ought to do that, and especially at nighttime, it's get maximum use at night. And I've talked about it. I have a feeling that may not happen in the first year. That may be just one more logistical nightmare that Tesla wouldn't want to touch while they're doing the big rollout. Now, maybe year two, again, maybe they roll it out, start in Austin and do some Uber Eats and some package delivery in Austin, and then go on to Northern California, kind of like they're doing now with the initial rollout. But I wouldn't be too uh, I wouldn't be expecting them to do the Uber Eats and package delivery in the initial 12 months, but maybe they do, and maybe they start hitting it, hammering it in year two, because I think there's a massive amount of money to be made there as well. Let me know in the comments below how much of this made sense, how much of it didn't make sense. Is this along the lines of what you've been thinking, or am I really crazy? By the way, you know that for a fact. You don't have to ask that question. Okay, so I want to let you know again about my Black Saturday special. My Black Saturday special is Cyber Cabs. It's gift giving time. look at this. It goes with my shirt. Is this cool or what? Anyway, yeah, these are very cool. They're very heavy duty. People are saying that they use them to open boxes. They use them to open envelopes. They use them for all kinds of things. But it is basically a bottle opener and a refrigerator magnet. That's what it's designed to do. Normally they're $25. And believe me, starting on Tuesday, they will be $25 again for one. $45 for two, $65 for three. But for today, tomorrow, and Monday, it's going to be $20 no matter how many you want to buy. So at $5, it turns out to be the same because at 5 units rather, it would still be $100. So at five, it doesn't matter. You're not getting a deal. Well, okay, you want to buy five? Five. I can do five for $90. So four for 80, five for 90. Okay. And same also on the book, the AI Rising, there's nothing I can do about the Kindle price or any of that. But what I can do is I can sell you my version of the audio, which is with my voice, although it's really a dubbed in voice. What do you call it? They made a copy of my voice and then used AI to create the MP3. But I can send you an MP3. It's not the same as an Audible. It's not going to sit in your Audible file. I will also send you a copy of a PDF or a PDF-like thing of the book. It's not going to be like seeing it in Kindle where you turn the page, you have all the special stuff where you can take notes and stuff. It's just going to be a plain old PDF type of product, but that way you'll be able to see the charts, the graphs, the pictures, etc. Yeah, in the book as you go along if you want to take a look at those. So that now you normally pay $15 for the Audible version. I'll do both of those for 10. So you get both things for $10. All right. Either way, the information is down below in case you don't have time to write it down as I'm speaking right now. It's just easy. It's paypal.me/Randy Kirk. That's it. There you go. All right. Earlier this evening, I did a video for the weekly news, the Saturday news rather. What's happened in the last 24 hours? Believe me, there was a ton of really exciting stuff that I think is going to pop the stock on Monday, both from the standpoint of the economy, from Black Friday, what happened on Black Friday, what people are now saying about the Christmas season, but also I think there's at least 4 stories about Tesla that could actually have an impact on the stock on Monday. All right, that's all I got for you. Oh, I put that card right up there, and that's all I've got, and it's been great talking to you.